Good morning. I'm Carlton Sharp, pastor of Faith Christian Center Church, and we're here today on what's happening in our neighborhood. Today, my special guest is Mr. Lashon Proctor of Proctor Mortuary. Welcome, Lashon.
Thank you, Pastor.
Hey, listen, tell us about yourself and what's happening with your mortuary service.
Well, again, I'm Lashon Proctor with Proctor's Mortuary. We are just a funeral service that's trying to do well by people, that have been blessed by God for the opportunity to be in this business. We started in 1997. My father had been in the business for about 50 years prior to, and then coming in to open his own funeral home and just getting established from there, just trying to do service for people.
So this is a generational business that you do for the community.
Well, it is generational in the sense of funeral homes. Our funeral home is new to that. My father had been in the funeral industry, but working for someone else's firm, running other firms. But for Proctor's Mortuary, starting those generational ties that's new for us. But it is, funeral business is a generational business.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that you just located here in Beaumont. When did you start your services here in Beaumont?
2000.
Okay.
In 2000, we started our funeral home in 1997 in Silsbee. And then in 2000, we were blessed to be able to come to Beaumont.
Now, I remember your location. It used to be a veterinarian shop.
Correct.
And then you converted that thing into your funeral home.
Yes, sir. We were, again, blessed. God has always shown us favor with the business, the buildings and things that we had. So it was a veterinarian clinic, had been there, they weren't kind of using it. So we went in. God showed us a favor again in that building, and the people allowed us to be able to lease it with an option to buy. 1,700 square foot is what it started, and we operated out of that building for many years that way.
Yeah. But you have since expanded and are doing some other great things there. So tell us about those things.
Well, what we did, and again, I thank God, because what happened is 1,700 square foot was small. Yeah. I can remember the day coming in and people coming in and packing in and being like, oh man, it's just so small in here. What you gonna do? Our chapel seated about 75 people.
Wow.
And that was all that it was able. And again, just packing people in and families allowing us the opportunity, even by being so small, to even service them. So that gave us a good opportunity. But what we've done, God has, again, blessed us to be able to expand. The building that was 1,700 square foot is now 10,000, about 10,000, 11,000 square foot.
Wow.
And it encompasses office space, everything that do the day-to-day operations. The building next door that used to be our garage, we converted it to a chapel, which is about 4,500 square foot and can seat approximately 300 people. So we're on a little bit over 5 acres of land. Still have about 2.5 acres that's been undeveloped. But God has really blessed us, and we're planning on doing some other things with that property now.
So tell us something about the services that you provide to the families in their time of grieving that all of us had to go through.
And it is, and death is something that we all have to deal with, whether we want to or not. It's always been that old cliche to where two things you can't escape is death and taxes.
Yes.
But we know a lot of people that don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
But we don't know nobody that escapes death.
Right.
So those are some things that we do, and in this business is something that God has. Again, I thank God, and I keep referencing that because I know that that's who allowed us to be and show favor. He's shown us favor, and people have shown us favor because God allowed. But in that sense, it's one of the most trying times that people are going through. Our thing is to make it simple for families, because there's already enough that you're going through the grief and the death of a loved one. So our process is not to pack anything on top of that. So what we do is whatever families need, that's what we're going to do. Whatever their financial situation is, that's what we're willing to help them with.
Right.
And it's just a facet of providing a service to where the family don't have to stress anymore, that they can be proud of what they do with their loved one, how they laid them to rest, how the service looked. And our goal is always to exceed our family's expectations.
Wonderful. Now, you do something special for the veterans, right?
Well, in a veteran service, of course, that's special within themselves, families, if the families choose. With veterans, of course, if they have an honorable discharge, they're available to be buried in the VA cemetery at no charge to the family. The VA cemetery provides the plot, they provide the flag, they provide the out-of-bury container, the headstone. Headstone and flag is given whether they're buried in the VA cemetery or not. That's something that's provided by the VA. But those are just some things that they do. Now, a lot of times in with that, when you speak of VA, a lot of times some veterans think that the VA will pay for the service. That is not true. If someone has passed away active duty, then the VA would take care of all of the expenses as far as the services are concerned. Those are some things that the body comes back to the funeral home, to the States, already casketed, already embalmed, already ready, in a sense, for the service. They come back with a veteran person that's going to be overseeing that service when they come back. So those are some things that the government provide. But when a person is not active duty or retired or just a veteran, then the family is responsible for the funeral service. But again, if they choose to bury in the VA cemetery, then that would be something that they provide. There are services if a person died in the VA facility, then there are some reimbursements and some other things that the VA do for families. It's just a matter of getting with the funeral director to help with that process, or a lot of times if they die in a VA facility, the VA person that's helping them would be able to help them with that as well.
Now, one of the things that I've seen, as a pastor, is that some families are not prepared for death. Mm-hmm. They're not prepared as far as insurance, all the things that will go along with, having their loved one buried. Mm-hmm. So what can a family do now before death happens to prepare themselves for it?
And that's a good thing, and even as you said, you see pastors, you preach death and dying almost every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And still the parishioners sometimes don't believe that they're going to die. Right. And those are some things that we're preparing. And I think it becomes, for whatever reason, the thing of dealing with death, nobody wants to deal with. Again, you preach it every Sunday, but still nobody wants to talk about death and dying. When death is talked about during families, everybody kind of shies away from that. But that's why, again, I think there's lack of preparation for death and dying. But you have insurance, you have pre-needs, different things. Now, my own personal opinion, and I tell families all the time, I don't think insurance policies should be used to bury someone. That's why pre-needs are in place.
And that's something that you offer, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yes, we offer insurance, whole life. We offer pre-need policies. But what you find, and why I say that is because pre-needs will pay for a funeral. But if you use a life insurance policy to bury someone, what happens to that family after that person is buried? Yeah. Because at that point in time, there's no more income coming into the house. There's no more, if we're two-family households, then you lost half of your household income. So what do you do if you use that insurance policy? So that's why a lot of times I encourage families to do pre-needs, but a lot of times people don't want to sit down and do that. A lot of times families will say, I got insurance. I have insurance on my job. But if you have insurance on your job and you lose your job, what happens to your insurance? So that's why, again, pre-need freezes the cost today. So again, there's no inflation. So as funerals go up, in time, funerals always go up. But a pre-need will secure that cost today. So whether it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line, then you're still going to have that funeral for what you pay today.
So if a person wants to do a pre-need package, all they have to do is just come to your area?
Yes, sir.
And sit down with you and talk to you about?
Yes, sir. Just come into the office. We'll sit down. A lot of times we can go a little bit over the phone, but to really go in is to come in and sit down and go over the pre-need. You get the plan. You get to say exactly what you want. You're not making it as an emotional decision. Because once someone has passed away, it's emotional. Right. You're making decisions at a time where sometimes you don't want to. But if you do it when you don't have to, then you can make sound decisions. You can go home and think about it. You can say, okay, well, maybe I need this, maybe I don't need that. And that's the good thing about pre-needs. Okay, well, let's just say that that something happens in the family, someone passes away. What are some of the first things that a family should do in order to start the process of the burial of their loved one? Well, first, when someone passes away, if they know someone is passing away, and let's back up a little bit. If someone knows someone is terminal, then it's best at that time to go in and talk to a funeral home. That's one of the first things I think. I think sometimes people know persons are terminal and they wait till they die in order to decide that they want to make the decision. Again, because we're living in that facet of it ain't going to happen. Right, it's really, but if the doctor says that there's nothing else that they can do, we understand and we trust God. But sometimes you have to trust what God has given those persons that's professionals in order to understand what's really going on. So we do need to make preparation. So at that point, I say the first thing is to find a funeral home. Okay. One thing that we know about funeral homes is generational. Most families use funeral homes simply because That's who buried everybody else. It's not because it's who's going to do the best job for me.
Yeah.
It's not who's going to give the best pricing. It's not who's going to provide us with the best service.
Yeah.
Those are some things that sometimes is just generational. But going to the funeral home and sitting down with the funeral director to see what your options are, to see what it is that you need to do. If the person has already passed away, then you need to, at that point, come up with a decision.
Yeah.
As far as who you're going to use. Have the funeral home call. The funeral home would then come in and make the removal. At that point, the family can go over, ask some questions to the funeral director or the person that's making it, ask some questions to them, get a little bit of understanding of what's going on. And at that point, then you would schedule a time to come into the funeral home to actually make your arrangements.
Right.
One thing that's about that, then it becomes emotional. And a lot of times I tell families that sit down with me, if someone passed away and I go to the hospital and I meet with them, if they want to come in that day, and I don't discourage them, but I don't really encourage them either, simply because I say you need to take a moment. Just take a moment because your emotions are running high because someone had just passed away. So now you're really, really emotional. Making emotional decisions sometimes don't work well for us,
Right.
Not even in life. If you make an emotional decision, sometimes you come back and think about it, you're like, wow, why did I do that?
Yeah.
So sitting down at the funeral home and making emotional decisions, sometimes you spend money and buy things that you really don't need. One misconception that I have, and every funeral home is different, but one misconception that I have is that a lot of times people think that funerals are expensive. Funerals can be expensive, depending on emotionally and what you think.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and not to be insensitive, but when a person has passed away, no matter how much money you spend on them at the funeral home, it's not going to show them how much you love them.
Right.
If you didn't do that prior, then when they passed away, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You have to realize that you have to live afterwards. One thing that I tell my families is when they come in, energy don't care if someone passed away.
Right.
You don't pay your energy bill, they're going to turn your lights off. The car person don't care that someone passed away. You don't pay your car note, they're going to repossess your car. House note, you may be able to defer a couple of payments to the rear, but after that, they're going to start foreclosure proceedings. So you have to be a thing of, you can have very nice funerals and not spend a lot of money. And I just think those are some of the misconceptions that people have.
So how can a person or a family get in contact with you and tell us where your locations are?
We have 4 locations.
Okay.
We have 4 locations. We have a website. We have a location in Silsbee. We have a facility there. We don't really use it a whole lot now, but we have Beaumont, we have Anahuac, we have a place in Woodville, and we're in the process of opening a place in Liberty as well. Our phone number for Beaumont is 40, and the main number, all of our numbers roll over to the same number, but our main number that we use is 409-840-2022. Again, that's 409-840-2022. We have a website, which is proctorsmortuary.com. We have a Facebook page where we list all of our services that we have to be able to just provide information to families and friends on when the services are. Our website does that as well. And those are just some things that we have that we're doing. We have our places, again, in 4 different counties to be able to service the areas, just to be able to give families an option as far as what they do and to provide a service. And like I said, one thing with us, our motto is we make the difference. Yeah. That's the motto that we came up with because we do feel like the people that you deal with in any situation make the difference. They make it good or they make it bad. And those are just some of the things that we try to do as our funeral home. Again, whatever family needs, that's what we're willing to do, that and beyond. It's a lot of things that we do for our families that I think sometimes when people see them, they just say, oh, wow, they didn't know that. Our funeral home does community events. We do a lot of things for the community. And I do that simply because we came in the thing. And just think about this. You're a pastor. There's many churches in the city. A lot of people don't go to church. Everybody's going to go to somebody's funeral home, whether they want to or not. So my thing is, what better place to give back to the community than the funeral home? Funeral homes are community. When you look at funeral homes and when they were established, where are they? Most funeral homes are next door to somebody's house. No matter where you go across America, they're in the community, embedded in the community. When funerals became commercial, when it became a business, because before it was a family providing service to other families. But funeral business became commercial. It became a business because, again, corporations figured out that there was money in funeral business. So therefore, it became a business. And that's kind of the thing that took a lot of it out of community. Now you see a lot of funeral homes they aren't able to be, but for whatever regulations and things, they aren't able to be in communities unless they're grandfathered in. But those are some things why we do what we do. Because back in the day, all your funeral homes did things for the community. The funeral home was the center point of the community. And I feel like it would be a disadvantage to the people that allow us to service them for us not to give back to our community. And those are why we do scholarships. You know, we've done things like that, sponsorships and Christmas and Thanksgiving and things like that for families. We try to help people in need, just to show the community that I know that they don't have to use us. But I'm thankful for everybody that give us an opportunity, for everybody that call us, because they don't have to. It's so many other places. And we're the newest funeral home, you know, here. And we're building generational ties. So I thank God for that. And I thank the people for that, because I know they don't have to. And when the phone rings, I get excited, you know, because it's somebody else that's allowing us to minister to them, to ease that burden and that pain. You know, I tell them, I can't take away from your loss. I can't take away from your sorrow. But I know the funeral business, I can help you with that. Right. I can help that process go smooth and simple. And when it's all said and done, I just like families to say, you know what? Thank you for all that you've done for us. When really, I thank them for what they've done for me.
Well, listen, I want to thank Lashon for coming in today to share with us on what's happening in our neighborhood. Hey, listen, don't wait until something happens before you make a plan. Start now in pre-planning for services that you would like to have. And so I want to thank Lashon once again for coming. Now, we're so excited about what's happening in our neighborhood. And so thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on our broadcast.